Nobody here wants to eat something from someone who can't even afford real butter. My aunt said that loud enough for the whole table to hear. She was holding my tray of pastries, the ones I'd spent 3 days perfecting, and announcing she was donating them to the church instead of serving them at Thanksgiving dinner. The room went quiet for a second. Then my stepsister started laughing. My father looked down at his plate. My grandmother sighed and turned away like she hadn't heard anything. I just stood there, holding nothing, feeling invisible. That was the last Thanksgiving I ever spent begging for a seat at their table. My name is Valerie. I'm 29 years old. And this is the story of how I turned family drama into a $10 million business empire. Let me take you back a little. I grew up in a small house with my mom and dad. We didn't have much money, but we had warmth. My mom taught me how to bake when I was 12. We'd spend Saturdays in the kitchen making cinnamon rolls, apple pies, and butter cookies. The smell of vanilla and cinnamon, that was home to me. Then my mom got sick. She passed away when I was 13. Everything changed after that. My dad remarried a year later. His new wife, Linda, brought 2 daughters into our home. Megan was my age. Tiffany was 2 years younger. Suddenly, I wasn't the daughter anymore. I was the extra kid who took up space. Linda made sure I knew my place. I got the basement bedroom. I did most of the chores, and whenever there was a choice between me and her daughters, I lost. Every single time. My dad? He just faded. He stopped standing up for me, stopped looking me in the eye. I think losing my mom broke something in him. But instead of holding on to me, he let me go. I didn't have their designer clothes or fancy degrees. I worked 2 jobs. Morning shift at a bakery, night shift doing food delivery. I was exhausted all the time, but I had my mother's recipes, and I had something they couldn't buy: patience. If you've ever been pushed aside by family, subscribe right now and tell me where you're watching from. I read every single comment, and trust me, this story is for you. I thought if I just worked harder, they'd finally see me. I was wrong. It was a Sunday dinner at my father's house. Linda had called everyone together for a family announcement. I didn't think much of it. Maybe someone was engaged. Maybe they were planning a vacation I wouldn't be invited to. But when my dad stood up and cleared his throat, I felt something shift in the room. "I've decided to invest $50,000 into a new business," he said. "Megan is opening a boutique cafe downtown. I believe in her vision and I want to support her dream." The room erupted. Megan jumped up and hugged him. Linda clapped like she'd won the lottery. Tiffany pulled out her phone to post about it immediately. I sat frozen. $50,000. I had asked my father for a loan 3 times over the past 2 years. $5,000. That's all I needed to start a small baking business. A commercial oven, some packaging supplies, a booth at the local farmer's market. 3 times I asked. 3 times he said no. "You're not ready. It's too risky. Maybe in a few years." And now here he was, handing $50,000 to Megan like it was nothing. I tried to stay calm. I told myself to breathe. But then Linda looked at me with that smile she always wore when she was about to twist the knife. "Megan has vision and connections," she said. "You have flour on your shirt." I looked down. There was a small smudge of flour near my collar from my morning shift at the bakery. The table laughed. Megan leaned over and whispered just loud enough for everyone to hear. "Maybe you can work for me someday, Valerie. I'll need someone to wash dishes." More laughter. I looked at my father. He didn't say a word. He just stared at his water glass like it was the most interesting thing in the world. I pushed my chair back and walked outside. I needed air. I needed to not cry in front of them. That's when I heard my father's voice through the window. "She'll get over it. She always does." I stood there in the cold, shaking, not from the temperature, from everything I'd been holding inside for 15 years. But the worst part came later. A few weeks after the announcement, I was cleaning out some old boxes in the basement. I found a cookbook I hadn't seen in years. My mother's cookbook. The one with her handwritten recipes. The one I thought had been thrown away. I opened it carefully. The pages were yellow and soft. Her handwriting was still there, loopy and familiar. I could almost hear her voice. I flipped to the back, and my heart stopped. One recipe was missing, torn out. Her signature cinnamon roll recipe, the one she created herself, the one she always said was our little secret. I went upstairs to find Linda. I asked her if she knew anything about the cookbook. She didn't even look up from her phone. "Oh, I gave that recipe to Megan months ago. She's going to feature it at the cafe. It's going to be their signature item." I couldn't breathe. "That was my mother's recipe," I said. "She wrote it for me." Linda finally looked at me. Her expression didn't change. "Well, it's Megan's now. Family recipes belong to the family. And last time I checked, Megan is family too." That recipe was the last thing my mother ever wrote down, and they were going to profit off it without even saying her name. A month later, my father hosted an investor dinner for Megan's cafe launch. Fancy caterers, expensive wine, a guest list filled with local business owners. I wasn't invited. "It's business only," Linda told me. "You wouldn't understand the conversations anyway." I didn't argue. I just nodded and stayed home. But then I saw the Instagram posts. My younger cousin Brittany was there. She posted a photo of the appetizer spread, and sitting right in the center of the table were the stuffed mushrooms I had made 2 days earlier. Megan had asked me to prepare some snacks for the dinner. A favor. No big deal. Now those snacks were being served at an investor dinner I wasn't allowed to attend. That was the first betrayal. The second one came at my cousin's baby shower. I was standing near the dessert table when I heard Linda's voice. She was talking to a group of women I didn't recognize. "Valerie, oh, she's still figuring things out. You know how some kids are. They just can't seem to get it together. But Megan, she's building an empire. We're so proud of her." I didn't move. I just listened. Then Megan walked over and joined the conversation. "Some people just aren't meant to lead," she said. "They're meant to follow. That's okay. The world needs followers too." The women nodded like she'd said something wise. I heard whispers behind me. "That's the stepsister, right? The one who works at the bakery? Poor thing. Must be hard watching everyone else succeed." I left the shower early. I told them I had a headache, but the real headache was still coming. The third betrayal was the worst. Megan's cafe was about to have its soft opening. She called me the week before. "Hey, I know we haven't always gotten along," she said, "but I really need your help. Just for one day. It's family, right?" I wanted to say no. Every part of me wanted to say no, but there was still a small piece of me, a stupid, hopeful piece, that thought maybe this could be a turning point. Maybe if I helped her, she'd finally see me as an equal. So I said yes. I showed up at 5 a.m. I baked for hours, decorated the tables, cleaned the floors, fixed the espresso machine when it broke. I didn't sit down once in 14 hours. At the end of the night, Megan posted a carousel of photos on Instagram, the beautiful pastries I had made, the cafe glowing with warm light, the smiling customers, and a caption that read, "So proud of what I've built. This dream is finally real." I wasn't mentioned once. I called her the next day. "Megan, I worked all day. You didn't even tag me. You didn't say thank you publicly." She laughed. "Valerie, relax. You should be grateful I let you participate. It's not like you have your own business to promote." I hung up, and something inside me finally clicked. They were never going to change. So I had to. I started waking up at 4 in the morning, before my bakery shift, before the sun came up. I baked my own products, cookies, brownies, and my mother's cinnamon rolls, made exactly the way she taught me. I rented a small booth at the local farmer's market. Every Saturday, I set up my little table with hand-labeled bags and a handwritten sign. At first, only a few people stopped by, but they kept coming back, and they brought friends. These are the best cinnamon rolls I've ever had. Where's your shop? I want to order more. You should sell these in stores. For the first time in years, I felt something I'd almost forgotten. Hope. What they didn't know was I'd been building my case long before I knew I'd need one. Every time Megan posted a photo of her recipes, I took a screenshot. Every time Linda bragged about the cafe's menu, I documented it. I had timestamps, I had photos, I had my mother's original handwritten cookbook, and I had something else. A savings account my mother left me when she died. I hadn't touched it in over 10 years. It wasn't a fortune, just under $8,000, but it was enough. Enough for a real start. At night, after my delivery shifts, I took online business courses, marketing, branding, food licensing laws. I learned how to pitch to grocery stores. I learned how to build a brand from nothing. I didn't tell anyone. Not my father. Not Linda. Not Megan. They thought I was just the girl who baked cookies. They had no idea what I was building in the dark. Her name was Rosa. She was 62 years old, retired, and she showed up at my farmer's market booth every Saturday without fail. At first, I thought she just really liked cinnamon rolls. She'd buy 3 or 4 bags and leave without saying much. But one morning, she stayed. "You know these are special, right?" she said, holding up a bag. "Not just good. Special." "Thank you," I said. "That means a lot." She studied me for a moment. "You're not doing this as a hobby, are you?" I shook my head. "No, I want to build a real business someday." Rosa smiled. "I owned a restaurant for 30 years. Sold it 5 years ago. Best decision I ever made. And the hardest." She handed me a business card. "Call me. I want to help." That phone call changed everything. Rosa became my mentor. She taught me about pricing, packaging, wholesale accounts. She showed me how to pitch to local grocery stores without sounding desperate. She helped me turn my little farmer's market booth into something real. "You don't need their permission to succeed," she told me once. "You need a plan. And you need to stop waiting for people who were never going to believe in you." Around the same time, a food blogger named Derek stumbled onto my booth. He ordered 2 cinnamon rolls, took 1 bite, and immediately asked for my contact info. A week later, he posted a review. "I found the best cinnamon rolls in the city, and they're being sold out of a tiny farmer's market booth by a woman named Valerie. Trust me. Go find her." My phone exploded. Orders flooded in. I couldn't keep up. I had to rent a small commercial kitchen just to meet demand. Meanwhile, Megan's cafe was struggling. Bad reviews on Yelp, high staff turnover, a menu that customers called bland and overpriced. She blamed everyone except herself. Then Linda called me. "Valerie, we need you to help Megan again, just temporarily. The cafe is going through a rough patch." I paused. "No." "Excuse me?" I said no. "I have my own business now. I don't have time." Linda's voice turned cold. "You'll regret being so selfish, after everything we've done for you." I almost laughed. "Goodbye, Linda." I hung up. But the final straw came 2 weeks later. I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw it. A post from Megan's Cafe, a new menu item. Grandma's famous cinnamon rolls, A treasured family recipe passed down through generations. They had stolen my mother's recipe, given it a fake story, and they were selling it as their own family legacy. That was the moment I stopped being patient and started being strategic. I called my father and asked for a family meeting. He sounded surprised, maybe even hopeful. "Of course, Valerie. Come by the house on Sunday. We'll all be here." I arrived at 3 o'clock, wearing a simple black dress. I carried a folder under my arm. Linda opened the door. She looked me up and down like I was a stain on her carpet. "Valerie, how nice." I walked past her without saying a word. My father was in the living room. Megan sat on the couch, arms crossed. Tiffany was on her phone, barely paying attention. "So," Linda said, sitting down. "What's this about? Have you come to apologize?" I didn't sit. I just opened my folder. "This is a photo of my mother's handwritten cinnamon roll recipe," I said, holding it up. "She created it when I was 10. She wrote the date at the bottom, October 14th, 2009. No one spoke. I pulled out another sheet. "This is a screenshot from your cafe's Instagram page," I said, looking at Megan. "You posted it 3 weeks ago. Grandma's famous cinnamon rolls. You said it was a family recipe passed down through generations." Megan shrugged. "So what? Recipes aren't copyrighted. You can't do anything about it." I smiled. "No, you're right. Recipes aren't copyrighted, but fraud is. And so is defamation when you've been telling investors this was your grandmother's recipe to secure funding." Megan's face went pale. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out another sheet. "I spoke to 2 of your investors last week," I said. I showed them the original recipe, the timestamps, the photos. They were very interested to learn that your family legacy was stolen from your stepsister's dead mother. Linda stood up. "You had no right." "I had every right," I said. "You took something that belonged to my mother. You erased her name. You tried to profit off her memory. And you did it while treating me like I didn't exist." My father finally spoke. "Valerie, please. This is family. Don't do this." I looked at him. Really looked at him. "You stopped treating me like family the day you chose silence over me," I said. "Every time they laughed at me, every time they excluded me, every time they humiliated me, you said nothing. You did nothing. You let them take everything from me, including my mother's last gift." He looked down. He couldn't meet my eyes. Linda tried again. "After everything we've done for you?" "You let me sleep in a basement," I said. "You made me work for free. You told me I wasn't good enough over and over again. That's not love. That's labor." I reached into my bag and pulled out something else, a small paper bag with a logo on it. "Lena's Kitchen," I said. "That's my mother's name, and that's my company." I set it on the coffee table. "I already have 3 grocery store contracts, a growing online following, and next month, I'm launching a full product line." Megan stared at the bag like it was a bomb. "You can't just—" "I already did," I said. "And 2 of your investors? They pulled their funding this morning. You should probably check your email." The room went silent. I picked up my folder and walked toward the door. My father called after me. "Valerie, wait." I turned around one last time. "I'm done waiting," I said. "I spent 15 years waiting for you to see me, to choose me, to love me the way you loved them. But you never did. And I finally realized, I don't need your approval anymore. I never did." I walked out the door, and I didn't look back. 2 years later, Lena's Kitchen became a $10 million brand. We're in over 200 stores now. National food magazines have featured us. I've been on podcasts, morning shows, even a small segment on the Food Network. I employ 40 people. A lot of them are single moms or former foster kids, people who know what it's like to be overlooked. I make sure they're never overlooked again. Rosa is still with me. She's a paid consultant now, and one of my closest friends. Megan's cafe closed after 14 months. I don't know what she's doing now. I don't ask. My father reached out once. A letter. Handwritten. He said he was sorry. That he wished he'd done things differently. I didn't respond. Not because I hate him. I don't. I just don't have space for him anymore. Not in my business. Not in my heart. Some doors, once closed, should stay closed. Last month, I visited my mother's grave. I brought a cinnamon roll, made exactly the way she taught me. I placed it on the headstone and sat down in the grass. I did it, Mom, I whispered. I kept your recipes alive. I kept your name alive. And I built something beautiful out of everything they tried to take from me. The wind blew gently through the trees, and for the first time in a long time, I felt peace. If you've ever turned your lowest moment into your greatest comeback, I want to hear about it. Drop your location in the comments. I read every single one. Your story might be the one that inspires someone else to keep going. Hit subscribe if you believe the people who underestimate you will one day watch you rise. And share this with someone who's been counted out by their own family. They need to know it gets better. I'm Valerie. Thanks for listening. See you in the next one.